Welcome, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin. That was his life, carefully measured and meticulously planned, built on responsibility and hard work. At 38, Cole had climbed the ladder to construction foreman through years of effort and commitment. He was punctual, never took shortcuts, and above all, always made it a point to pick up his son from school. The truck's air conditioner struggled against George's intense heat as Cole pulled into the parent pickup line. His phone buzzed with messages from subcontractors, but they could wait. This time was for Milo. Through the windshield, Cole saw other parents arriving in sleek SUVs and sports cars. His truck, though well-maintained, stood out with its worn exterior and construction company logo. Delilah had been urging him to get something newer, something more fitting for their image. The memory of their last argument about it still stung. "The neighbors probably think we're struggling," she had said, wrinkling her nose in distaste. "How am I supposed to entertain clients with that thing parked in our driveway?" Cole had reminded her that the truck was paid for, reliable and perfect for hauling supplies for his weekend projects. She had stormed off to another work dinner, leaving him to wonder when status had become more important than sense. The school bell pulled him from his thoughts. Children spilled out of the building, like water breaking through a dam, their excited voices filling the air. Cole straightened in his seat, scanning the crowd for Milo. His 8-year-old son had inherited his dark hair and strong features, but there was something uniquely striking about the boy's blue eyes. Milo emerged from the doors, his Spider-Man backpack bouncing as he ran toward the truck. The sight of him always softened the harsh edges of Cole's workday. Every long hour, every difficult client, every challenge seemed to melt away when Milo smiled. "Hey, buddy," Cole called as Milo climbed into the back seat. "Buckle up tight. How was school today?" Milo fumbled with his seatbelt, practically buzzing with excitement. "It was awesome. But yesterday was even better. Second Daddy picked me up." Cole froze, his hands stiff on the wheel. The world around him seemed to tilt. His ears buzzed as he forced himself to breathe evenly. "Second. What did you say?" Second Daddy," Milo repeated, unaware of the storm brewing in his father's chest. "His name's Ashton. He's super cool, Dad. He drives this amazing black car that makes whoosh sounds when it goes fast. And he took me for ice cream at that fancy place by the mall. Can he live with us?" Each word felt like a blow. Cole's jaw clenched, his teeth grinding together, but he kept his voice steady. "When did you meet this Ashton?" "Mom says he's her special friend." Milo rummaged through his backpack, then pulled out a drawing. "He comes to see us sometimes when you're at work. Look what I drew in art class." A crumpled paper appeared between the seats. Cole stared at the crayon figures. 5 stick people holding hands, labeled Dad, Mom, me, Arya, and Second Daddy. The paper trembled in his grip. "Has he picked you up before?" Cole asked, trying to maintain control. "Yeah," Milo whispered. "Mom said it was okay because she had a really important meeting, and guess what? He let me get 2 scoops with sprinkles. Mom never lets me get sprinkles, because she says they're all sugar, but Second Daddy says sometimes sugar is good for growing boys." Cole drove on, his mind racing. Delilah's increasing number of work dinners, her habit of angling her phone away from him, her new obsession with designer clothes, all the signs had been there, flashing like warning lights. But he had trusted her, believed in their vows, in their family. "Dad!" Milo's voice broke through his thoughts. "Are you mad? You're making your angry face." Cole caught his reflection in the rearview mirror and forced himself to relax. "No, buddy, not at you. Never at you. Tell me more about school. How was that math test?" Milo launched into an enthusiastic recounting of his day, but Cole's mind kept spinning. He needed to know more, needed to understand the betrayal before confronting Delilah. Their home, a modest 2-story in a quiet neighborhood, came into view. Cole had spent his weekends improving it, building a treehouse for Milo, planting flowers with Arya, fixing squeaky floorboards and loose shingles. It had been a labor of love, a home he had built, while Delilah had seemingly built something else entirely. "Go start your homework, champ. I'll make dinner soon," Cole said, watching Milo dash up the front steps, unaware of the gravity of what had just been revealed. Inside, 12-year-old Arya sat at the kitchen table, an algebra book open in front of her. She looked up as they entered, her dark eyes, so much like Cole's, full of concern. "Dad, you okay? You look weird." "Just a long day, Princess," he replied, kissing the top of her head. "How's the homework going?" "This stuff is impossible," Arya sighed, pushing the book away. "Mom said she'd help when she got home, but she's at another dinner meeting." Cole pulled out his phone, checking the latest text from Delilah. "Working late again. Important client dinner. Don't wait up. Love you." The words made his stomach churn. How many lies were buried in messages like this? How long had she been fooling him? "I'll help," he said, sitting beside Arya. "Let me see who we're dealing with." They worked through the equations together, while Milo sprawled on the living room floor with his homework. As the evening went on, Cole moved through the routine mechanically, helping with schoolwork, making dinner, checking backpacks, while his rage simmered beneath the surface. Once the kids were upstairs, Cole sat at the kitchen table with Delilah's laptop. She had always used the same password, her anniversary date. The irony twisted in his gut as he logged in, his hands shaking slightly. He searched through her files, finding nothing suspicious at first. But then, buried deep in her documents, he found a folder titled Work Presentations 2019. The date made no sense. She had changed jobs last year. He clicked, and the images revealed everything. Photos of Delilah in the arms of a man who looked like he stepped out of a luxury car commercial. Expensive restaurants, weekend getaways, intimate moments. Among them were pictures of Ashton and Milo at the park, teaching him to throw a baseball, and at an ice cream shop. Both their faces lit with joy as they shared what looked like a private moment. "Daddy?" Arya's voice startled him. "What's wrong? You look scary." Cole quickly closed the laptop, forcing his expression to soften. "Everything's fine, sweetheart. Just some work stuff." "I thought you were in bed," he added. "I heard you making angry breathing sounds." Arya crossed her arms, her gaze sharp. "Is Mom in trouble?" For a moment, Cole forgot how perceptive she was. "Why would you think that?" "Because lately she's been acting differently. She's always on her phone, and she gets all tense when I ask about her work friends," Arya said, her voice dropping lower. "I saw her with a man at the mall last week. They were holding hands, but she didn't see me. I was with Sophie and her mom." The words hit Cole like a punch. His daughter had been holding on to this information, unsure how to process it, maybe trying to protect him, or perhaps afraid of destroying their fragile family peace. "Come here, Princess," he said, opening his arms. She came to him without hesitation, burying her face in his shoulder as she had when she was younger. "I need you to understand something," he said softly. "Whatever happens next, whatever you see or hear, none of this is your fault or Milo's fault, okay?" She nodded against him, and he could feel her tears soaking his shirt. "Are you and Mom getting divorced?" she asked. "I don't know yet," Cole replied, the words tasting bitter in his mouth. "But I promise you this, I'm not going anywhere. You and Milo are my whole world." She pulled back, wiping her eyes. "Even if we're not really yours?" she asked, and Cole's heart froze. "What do you mean?" he asked, struggling to understand. "I overheard Mom on the phone once. She was arguing with someone about test results, about you not being Arya's real dad." Arya's voice cracked. The world seemed to shift, but Cole remained steady. "Listen to me," he said. "Biology doesn't make a father. Love does. Showing up does. Being there for every scraped knee, every nightmare, every school play. That's what makes a father. You understand?" Arya nodded, managing a tearful smile. "I love you, Dad. I love you too, Princess. Always will," he said, kissing the top of her head. "Now, back to bed. It's late." After Arya went upstairs, Cole returned to the laptop. His hands were steady now, the anger inside him turning to something colder, harder. He downloaded every photo, email, and scrap of evidence he could find. The hours dragged on as Cole paced the house like a caged animal, reviewing each piece of evidence again and again. Each photo felt like a fresh betrayal, not just to him, but to his children, to the family he had worked so hard to build. At 11:42 p.m., he heard Delilah's key in the lock. She breezed in, a designer purse swinging from her arm, wearing a dress he had never seen before, The scent of unfamiliar cologne clung to her. "You're still up?" she said, clearly annoyed at finding him waiting. "I told you not to wait." "Who's Ashton?" Cole's voice was low, dangerous. The question hung in the air like smoke. Delilah's perfectly manicured hand froze on the kitchen counter for a split second. Surprise flickered across her face, then her expression changed, the loving wife mask dropping. A smirk formed at the corners of her mouth. "How did you find out?" she asked. "Does it matter?" She shrugged nonchalantly. 8 months, though we've known each other longer. He's a client of the firm." Cole's voice dropped to a whisper. "You let him pick up our son from school?" "My son," Delilah corrected sharply. "Yes, I did. Ashton is great with kids. Better than you, actually. He has time for them, money for them. He doesn't embarrass them by showing up in a dirty work truck." Cole's laugh was hollow. "That's what this is about? My truck? My job? Let's face it, Cole," Delilah said, dropping her purse on the counter and fixing him with a cold stare. "Ashton offers me more than you ever could. I deserve a better life, and so do the kids. The construction foreman thing was cute when we were younger, but I've outgrown this mediocrity." She gestured around their kitchen, the one Cole had renovated himself, installing the granite countertops she'd wanted, the custom cabinets she'd chosen. "You want to talk about mediocrity?" Cole's voice remained level. "Let's talk about how a mediocre man builds something lasting, provides for his family, and shows up every day, while your fancy man sneaks around, taking other people's children for ice cream." Delilah's eyes narrowed. "We both know the truth about those children. Or should I say, we both will, once the DNA results come back." "What are you talking about?" Cole asked, his voice shaky. Delilah rolled her eyes. "You must have suspected. Those blue eyes of Milo's, that artistic talent Arya has that neither of us possess. Did you really think they were yours?" Every word she spoke felt like a calculated attack, and they found their mark. But Cole had been preparing for this moment since his conversation with Arya. "Get out!" Cole growled. "Don't be dramatic," Delilah replied, rolling her eyes. "Where would I go?" "This is my house too, and the kids need their mother. The kids need a mother who doesn't lie to them," Cole said, stepping closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "A mother who doesn't expose them to strange men behind their father's back." Delilah's eyes flashed with something dangerous. "Careful, Cole. You really want to play this game? One call to my lawyer friends, and you'll be lucky if you see the kids on holidays." "The game's already started," Cole replied coldly. "You just didn't know you were playing." The next morning, for the first time in 5 years, Cole called in sick to work. His crew could handle the foundation work without him. Today, he had more important foundations to deal with. He dropped the kids off at school himself, holding them both a little longer than usual. Arya's knowing look tore at his heart, but Milo's innocent excitement about the day ahead steeled his resolve. At 2:30 p.m., right on schedule, a black BMW pulled into the pickup line. Cole clenched his fists as he watched Ashton step out, tall, dressed in designer clothes with a movie star smile, everything Cole was not. Milo ran to him, exactly as he had run to Cole the day before, and something inside Cole broke. He followed them to a fancy apartment complex on the north side of town, where Delilah was waiting outside. She kissed Ashton deeply, right in the open, while Milo played on his phone in the back seat. Cole recorded everything on his phone, his hand surprisingly steady despite the rage inside him. When they disappeared inside, he drove home and waited. Delilah returned at dinner time with Milo, and she froze when she saw Cole sitting at the kitchen table, her laptop open in front of him. "Milo, go upstairs," Cole said quietly. "Arya will help you with your homework." Once the bedroom door closed upstairs, Cole turned the laptop around. The screen filled with photos, a digital gallery of betrayal. "You're not even trying to hide it anymore," Cole said. "Why should I?" Delilah tossed her hair back defiantly. "You'll never go through with it, Cole. You need me." Cole stood slowly, his chair scraping against the floor. "What did you say?" "You heard me," Delilah said, satisfaction dripping from her words. "Did you really think he was yours? Look at him, Cole. Look at those blue eyes. Neither of us has blue eyes. And Arya, well, Let's just say I had a very artistic friend in college. You're lying, Cole whispered. But even as he said it, doubt crept in. Am I getting a paternity test? If you don't believe me, Delilah said with a soft laugh. I wouldn't if I were you. Might make those child support payments complicated. Cole stared at her, really seeing her for the first time. The beautiful face he had fallen in love with now seemed like a mask, hiding something twisted and cruel underneath. Get out, he said again, but this time his voice was filled with cold certainty. Pack your things. Get out of my house. You'll never go through with this, Delilah repeated, but this time there was a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. You're too weak, too afraid of being alone. What would you do without me? Who would want you? I'd rather be alone than live another day with your lies. Cole's voice was steel. You've got 1 hour to pack your essentials. Tomorrow, while the kids are at school, you can come back for the rest. After that, the locks are changing. You can't do this, Delilah said, her composure cracking slightly. This is my house too. I have rights. Cole pulled out his phone and played the video he had taken earlier. Delilah's face went pale as she watched herself kissing Ashton outside his apartment. You want to talk about rights? Cole asked, cutting her off. While you're parading our son, my son, around with your lover? Delilah stayed silent. Save it for the lawyers, Cole said, his voice cold. 1 hour. Tick-tock. She stormed upstairs, her heels clicking sharply against the hardwood. Cole could hear her yanking drawers open, hangers scraping against closet rods. He sat at the kitchen table, listening to the sounds of his marriage unraveling upstairs. A door creaked open, and soft footsteps padded down the hall. Dad! Arya's voice was barely a whisper. Is Mom leaving? Cole turned to see both kids hovering in the doorway. Milo clutched his sister's hand, his lower lip trembling. Come here, both of you, Cole said, opening his arms. They rushed to him, and he held them tight, breathing in the scent of their shampoo and feeling their small bodies shaking with confusion and fear. I need you to be brave right now, he said softly. Can you do that for me? Where's Mom going? Milo asked, his voice muffled against Cole's shirt. She's going to stay somewhere else for a while, Cole answered, his voice steady. Some things have happened, adult things, that mean we need some time apart. Is it because of second daddy? Milo asked, and Cole felt Arya stiffen in his arms. Partly, Cole admitted. But mostly, it's because sometimes grown-ups make choices that hurt the people they're supposed to love. And when that happens, things have to change. Will we still see Mom? Arya's question carried more worry than a 12-year-old should have to bear. Of course you will, Cole replied, his words tasting bitter. She's still your mother. This isn't about you two, Cole added. None of this is your fault, okay? They nodded against his chest. Above them, Delilah's footsteps echoed through the house, moving from room to room, with the occasional slam of a drawer or closet door. Why don't you two go watch TV in the den? Cole suggested gently. I'll make some hot chocolate in a bit. They reluctantly left him, and Cole stayed seated at the kitchen table, the weight of the moment heavy in his chest. Arya gently pulled away from Cole's embrace, guiding Milo toward the den, while casting worried glances over her shoulder until they were out of sight. 45 minutes later, Delilah descended the stairs with 2 designer suitcases and her largest purse. Her makeup was slightly smudged, but her posture was straight, and her chin was lifted in defiance. This isn't over, she said, stopping at the door. You have no idea what you're starting. No, Cole replied quietly, his voice steady. This is exactly what you started. I'm just finishing it. With a firm click, the door closed behind her. From the window, Cole watched as she loaded her bags into her Mercedes, the one he had helped her purchase the previous year. The engine roared to life, and she drove off into the darkening night. Inside the den, both kids were curled up on the couch, pretending to watch cartoons, but clearly waiting for every sound Cole made. He made hot chocolate, adding extra marshmallows to Milo's cup as promised. That evening, neither child wanted to sleep alone in their rooms. Cole made a blanket fort on the living room floor, and they all huddled together, the TV murmuring quietly in the background as his children finally drifted off to sleep. Lying awake, Cole stared at the ceiling, formulating his next steps. The following day, he would call a lawyer first thing and arrange paternity tests for both children, not because it would change how he felt about them, but because he needed to know exactly what Delilah had kept hidden. He had to secure his position, change the locks, close their joint accounts, and protect what was his. Let Delilah continue her games with her wealthy lover. Let her try to destroy everything he had built. He would show her just how strong he could be. The morning after Delilah left felt surreal. Cole sat at the kitchen table, staring at the coffee growing cold before him. His phone displayed numerous missed calls from Delilah, all ignored. The dawn light crept through the windows, casting long shadows across the family photos he couldn't bear to take down. His finger hovered over his brother-in-law's contact, Marcus. Marcus had been a family law attorney for 15 years. Making this call would make everything real. No turning back now. I need the best, Cole told Marcus when he finally answered. Someone who won't back down when things get ugly. Are you sure about this? Marcus's voice crackled with concern. Once you start a fight like this, she brought another man around my kids, Cole interrupted, his grip tightening on the phone. Behind my back. Let him pick up Milo from school, play daddy while I was working to support our family. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. Jesus Christ! What do you know about this guy? Only his name, Cole said. Ashton. Drives a fancy BMW. Takes my son for ice cream like he has the right. Okay, listen carefully. Marcus's lawyer voice took over. I'm sending Sarah Chun over. She's a pit bull in heels. Specializes in cases like yours. She doesn't stop until she gets results. How soon? Cole asked. 2 hours? You at home? Cole glanced at his watch. Yeah, just drop the kids off at school. I need to make some moves before Delilah realizes what's happening. Smart move, Marcus said. Document everything, every text, every call, every interaction. Start a journal if you have to. Marcus paused. Listen, Cole. Janelle's worried sick. She wants to come help with the kids. Maybe stay a few days. Tell her I'm fine. The kids are fine, Cole said, jaw clenched. I don't need anyone's pity. It's not pity, you stubborn ass, Marcus snapped. It's family, and right now, you need all the support you can get. Let us help. What I need is to handle this my way. Cole's voice softened slightly. But thank her for me. His phone buzzed with a text from Mike, his assistant. Foreman Cruz asking about you, boss. Everything okay? Cole typed quickly. Family emergency. Need a few days. Can you handle the hospital project? Got it covered. Take care of your family. We'll manage. The doorbell rang precisely at 9 o'clock. Sarah Chun stood on the porch, leather briefcase in hand, exuding the kind of confidence that came from winning tough battles. Mr. Easton, she said, offering a firm, professional handshake. Call me Cole, he replied, leading her into the kitchen. Coffee? No, thank you. Let's get straight to business. She opened her briefcase and pulled out a legal pad. Tell me everything, starting with when you first suspected. Don't leave anything out, no matter how small it seems. For the next hour, Cole laid out the evidence, photos from Delilah's laptop, the video of her with Ashton, Milo's innocent revelation about second daddy. With each new detail, Sarah's expression hardened, and her notes became more detailed. She's going to play dirty, Sarah warned, tapping her pen against the pad. Claims of emotional abuse, financial instability. She'll try to paint you as a controlling workaholic who neglected her needs. Let her try, Cole's voice was like steel. I've got 15 years of bank statements showing I paid every bill, performance reviews from work showing steady promotions, neighbors who've seen me at every school event, every game, every parent-teacher conference while she was out working late. Good, we'll need it, Sarah said. Her phone buzzed, and she glanced at it, raising an eyebrow. Well, your wife works fast. Her lawyer just filed for emergency custody. Cole's hands curled into fists. On what grounds? Claims you changed the locks illegally, denied her access to her children, Sarah said, her lips curling slightly. Amateur move. She's playing emotional instead of tactical. What's our counter? Cole asked. First, we file for temporary full custody, citing her introduction of an unauthorized adult to the children without your knowledge or consent. That's a major safety concern. Sarah began writing rapidly. Then, we request paternity testing. which is already scheduled, I take it? Tomorrow morning, Cole interrupted. Perfect, Sarah nodded. Now, about your wife's assets. A car door slammed outside. Cole moved to the window and saw Delilah in the driveway, designer purse clutched like a weapon, her car parked just behind her. She stood there, staring at the house as Ashton's black BMW drove away. Bim idled at the curb. Perfect timing, Sarah murmured as she gathered her papers. Remember what we discussed. Stay calm, no matter what she says. Cole's phone rang. It was Delilah. Where are my things? She demanded bluntly. In the garage. You can go ahead and get them. I'm outside now. Open the door. The garage code hasn't changed, Cole replied, his tone flat. Get your stuff and go. We need to talk about this ridiculous custody filing. Her voice was venomous. You're being completely unreasonable. The kids need their mother. Unreasonable? Cole let out a harsh laugh. That's rich coming from the woman who let a stranger play daddy with my son. He's not a stranger, Delilah snapped. Ashton cares about the kids. He wants to help raise them and give them opportunities you could never provide. Private schools, summer camps, you name it. Cole's voice dropped dangerously low. Don't you dare try to justify what you did. Don't pretend this was for them. The garage door rumbled open, and Cole watched as Ashton stepped out of his car, exuding casual confidence in his designer clothes and expensive haircut. Need help with the bags, babe? Ashton called out, looking over at Delilah. Cole moved to the garage doorway, Sarah silently standing behind him. Seeing Ashton up close for the first time, Cole understood why Delilah was drawn to him. Tall, polished, the kind of confidence that came from old money and country club memberships. Well, Ashton said, flashing what he probably thought was a disarming smile. I guess we should properly meet. I'm the man who needs you to stay the hell away from my children. Cole's voice could have frozen fire. Ashton's smile faltered. Look, I understand you're upset. No, you don't understand anything, Cole interrupted, stepping forward, his height advantage forcing Ashton to instinctively back away. You think this is some romantic movie where you swoop in and play hero? This is my family you're messing with. Delilah cut in. Ashton's been more of a father figure than you've ever been. Cole's laugh was bitter. A father shows up every day. A father builds something lasting. He doesn't sneak around with another man's wife and children like a thief. Maybe if you'd given me what I needed. Delilah started. What you needed. Cole's voice rose. I gave you everything. A home. A family. Stability. But that wasn't exciting enough, was it? You needed someone with a fancier car and a country club membership. That's not fair, Ashton interjected, stepping between them. Delilah deserves... Shut up, Cole snapped, his voice cracking like a whip. You don't get to speak about what she deserves. You forfeited any right to an opinion when you helped destroy a family. Ashton stepped closer, puffing out his chest. You gonna get physical, tough guy? Show us what a real man does. That's enough. Sarah's voice cut through the tension. Mr. Easton has graciously allowed you to collect Mrs. Easton's belongings. I suggest you do so quickly and quietly before we add trespassing to your list of legal concerns. And who are you? Delilah demanded, turning to face Sarah. Sarah Chun, Mr. Easton's attorney, Sarah said with a razor-sharp smile. Would you like me to continue this conversation with your lawyer present? The next hour passed in intense silence as Delilah and Ashton loaded boxes into his BMW. Cole stood with his arms crossed, watching them while Sarah made notes on her phone. Every so often, Delilah would glance at Cole, shooting him pleading looks, but he steadfastly ignored them. As they packed the last box, Delilah approached him one more time. The kids, she said softly. I want to see them through proper channels, Cole replied. Your lawyer can contact Ms. Chun. They're my children. You should have thought about that before you started playing house with him, Cole said, turning away. After they drove off, Cole's phone buzzed with a text from the school, reminding him of tomorrow's parent-teacher conference, something he had completely forgotten about. We're not done here, Sarah said, checking her watch. But go ahead. Family court looks favorably on parents who stay involved in their children's education, especially during difficult transitions. The next morning, Cole sat across from Mrs. Henderson, Milo's third-grade teacher. Her kind face showed concern as she flipped through papers on her desk. Milo's been distracted lately, she said gently. His homework is still good, but he's not as focused in class. Yesterday, he mentioned having two daddies. I assumed he meant a stepfather situation. No, Cole's voice was tight. He meant the man my wife's been seeing behind my back, the one she allowed to pick him up without my knowledge or permission. Mrs. Henderson's eyes widened. Mr. Easton, I'm so sorry. I had no idea he didn't have proper authorization. It's not your fault, Cole said, rubbing his face. I've already contacted the school board. Delilah's pickup privileges are suspended pending our court date. Mrs. Henderson hesitated. Milo's a wonderful boy, very sensitive. If you'd like, our school counselor. Thank you, but we'll handle it as a family, Cole interrupted. Just keep an eye on him and let me know if anything seems off. Of course. And Mr. Easton, she said, touching his arm lightly. You're doing the right thing, standing up for your children. After that, Cole drove to the medical center for the paternity tests. The sterile smell of the clinic made his stomach turn. In the waiting room, he watched other families, normal families, going about their day, a mother soothing a crying baby, a father helping his son with a puzzle. Simple moments he had taken for granted. His phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. How you holding up? Fine, Cole typed back. Coming over tonight, bringing beer. Before he could respond, another message came through, this one from Mike at the construction site. Boss, city inspector's here for the hospital project. Need you to sign off on some changes. Reality crashed back in. He couldn't put his life on hold, no matter how much he wanted to. He had responsibilities to his kids, his crew, and his clients. Be there in 20, he replied to Mike. At the construction site, his crew worked with practiced efficiency, the rhythm of hammers and machinery providing familiar comfort. Mike met him at the trailer, where plans were spread out across the desk. Inspector wants additional support beams here and here, Mike said, pointing at the blueprints. Going to add about 30 grand to the budget. Cole studied the plans, letting the technical details wash over him. At least this made sense. Numbers, angles, physics. Not like the mess his personal life had become. You okay, boss? Mike asked quietly, noticing his mood. Cruz is worried. Never seen you take time off before. Cole straightened up, rolling the plans. I'm handling it. Yeah, well. Mike shifted uncomfortably. We got your back. You know, whatever you need. The phone buzzed, and Cole glanced at it, his heart stopping when he saw the name. Mr. Easton, this is Principal Reeves. There's been an incident, the principal said, his voice tense. Is Arya okay? Cole's voice was tight with worry. She's fine, but Mrs. Easton attempted to remove her from class without permission. When we refused, she became disruptive. I'm on my way, Cole replied, the words barely leaving his mouth before he was heading out the door. He found Arya in the school office, sitting hunched in a chair, her eyes red from crying. Delilah was standing across from Principal Reeves, arguing loudly. This is ridiculous. I'm her mother. You can't keep my daughter from me. And I'm her father, Cole declared, stepping into the room. The one with current legal custody. Delilah whipped around to face him. You bastard! You're turning everyone against me! Mrs. Easton, Principal Reeves interjected firmly. Please lower your voice. It's fine, Cole said coldly. She was just leaving, weren't you, Delilah? He turned his gaze to his ex-wife. You can't keep doing this. Delilah's voice cracked with emotion. They're my children too. Then maybe you should have thought about them before you started playing house with Ashton, Cole replied, his voice firm. He turned to Arya, softening. Ready to go home, princess? Arya nodded, practically running to his side. Delilah reached for her, but Arya flinched away. Baby, please, Delilah pleaded, her voice full of desperation. Just talk to me. Let me explain. I saw you, Arya whispered, her words cutting through the tension. At the mall with him. You were laughing while Daddy was working, building things for other people's families. You didn't even care. The words seemed to physically strike Delilah, and she staggered back, her hand covering her mouth. That's enough, Cole said softly, his voice firm. Come on, Arya. Let's get your brother and go home. In the car, Arya was quiet as they drove to Milo's school. Dad. Her voice was small. Are you going to tell Milo about the mall? About what I saw? No, Princess. Cole squeezed her hand. That's your story to tell, if and when you're ready. Right now, we just need to be there for him. Can you do that? Arya nodded, straightening her shoulders. I can be strong like you. The words hit Cole harder than expected. His daughter shouldn't have to be strong. She should be focused on dance recitals and math tests, not dealing with her mother's betrayal. That evening, Cole tried to keep things as normal as possible. He helped with homework, ordered pizza, and pretended not to notice how Milo kept glancing at his phone, waiting for a call from Delilah that never came. After the kids were in bed, Cole sat in his office, going over the day's events with Sarah on the phone. Delilah's stunt at the school actually helps us. Sarah's voice was sharp and professional. It shows a pattern of erratic behavior and disregard for procedures. What about the paternity results? Cole asked. 3 to 5 business days, Sarah replied, before pausing. But Cole, are you prepared for either outcome? They're my kids, Cole said firmly. DNA won't change that. Good answer, Sarah said. Now, about tomorrow's depositions. Before she could continue, a knock at the front door interrupted them. Cole opened it to find Marcus standing there, holding a six-pack. Told you I was coming, Marcus said, pushing past him into the living room. Now, we're talking. Cole followed, knowing Marcus wouldn't leave until he said his piece. Janelle's worried sick, Marcus began, handing Cole a beer. Says you're not answering her calls. Been busy, Cole muttered. Yeah, being stubborn. Marcus leaned in, his tone serious. Look, I get it. You're handling it. You're strong. But this isn't just about you anymore. You think I don't know that? Cole's voice rose slightly before he caught himself, mindful of the kids upstairs. Every decision I make now affects them. Every move has consequences. Exactly, Marcus said. Which is why you need backup. Janelle wants to help with the kids. I'm handling legal strategy with Sarah. Mike's covering the job site. Let us carry some of this weight. Before Cole could respond, his phone buzzed with a text from Delilah. We need to talk about the kids. Please don't answer it, Marcus advised, seeing Cole's expression darken. Not tonight. Not without Sarah present. What was I planning to? Cole put the phone face down. She lost the right to late-night conversations when she started sneaking around with Ashton. Marcus hesitated before speaking. I had my investigator do some digging on this guy. He's not as squeaky clean as he pretends. Cole's head snapped up. What do you mean? 3 bankruptcies in 10 years, tax liens. And get this, sealed juvenile records in Florida. Sarah can subpoena the records, Cole said. We can use them to argue he's an unsuitable influence on the kids. Jesus! Cole ran a hand over his face. Does Delilah know? Doubt it, Marcus replied. He probably sold her some story about being a successful businessman. Classic conman move. Another knock interrupted them. This time it was Janelle, her arms loaded with groceries. Before you say anything, she said, marching into the kitchen. I'm stocking your fridge. Those kids need real food, not just pizza and takeout. Cole watched his sister unpack containers of homemade meals, her movements quick and efficient. She'd always been the nurturer of the family, stepping in to take care of everyone after their parents died. Jan, Cole started. Don't you Jan me, Cole Easton. She spun around to face him. You're my brother, and those are my niece and nephew up there. We're family. Deal with it. The next morning brought new challenges. Before the custody hearing, Cole stopped at the construction site to review changes to the hospital project plans. His crew worked silently and efficiently, but Cole could feel their concerned glances. Mike caught him by the trailer. Listen, boss, we got this covered, however long you need. No, seriously. Mike's usually gruff voice softened. My dad walked out when I was 12. Mom tried doing everything alone. Nearly killed her. Don't be like that. The words hit home harder than Cole expected. He'd been so focused on being strong and not showing weakness that he'd forgotten that sometimes strength meant accepting help. His phone buzzed again. It was Sarah, reminding him about the hearing. As he drove to the courthouse, Cole reflected on everything that had led to this moment. Every lie Delilah had told, every betrayal she had orchestrated, every time she tried to replace him with Ashton. The anger was still there, burning cold and hard in his chest, but now it had purpose. Direction. She thought she could break their family. He would show her just how wrong she was. The courthouse steps loomed ahead, a mountain of stone and justice. Sarah was waiting at the top, briefcase in hand, ready for battle. Let Delilah play her games. He would show her what real strength looked like. Inside the courtroom, Cole sat rigidly next to Sarah as Delilah's attorney, Patricia Warren, presented their case. Warren, an elegantly dressed woman with sharp features, painted a picture designed to tear him down. Mr. Easton works 60 to 70 hours a week, Warren argued. His dedication to his construction business, while admirable, has left Mrs. Easton essentially a single parent. She sought emotional support where she could find it. Cole clenched his jaw, but Sarah's hand on his arm kept him silent. Furthermore, Warren continued, Mr. Blake offers stability, financial security, and educational opportunities the children couldn't otherwise access. His presence in their lives should be viewed as an asset, not a liability. Sarah rose slowly, her heels clicking against the polished floor. Your Honor, may I respond? At the judge's nod, she launched her counterattack. Mrs. Easton speaks of stability, Sarah began, yet she introduced an unauthorized adult into her children's lives without their father's knowledge or consent. She encouraged her 8-year-old son to call this man second daddy, a clear attempt at parental alienation. Sarah produced a thick folder. I have here Mr. Blake's financial records, obtained through discovery. 3 bankruptcies, multiple tax liens, and a sealed juvenile record we're petitioning to have opened. Is this the stability Mrs. Easton claims to value? Delilah's face went pale. She whispered urgently to her attorney, who waved her off. Additionally, Sarah continued, while Mr. Easton worked to provide for his family, Mrs. Easton used company resources to facilitate her affair. She produced another set of documents, credit card statements showing hotel charges, expensive dinners, all billed to her corporate account under the guise of client meetings. The evidence mounted hour after hour, school records showing Milo's declining performance after Ashton entered his life, testimony from teachers about Aria's emotional withdrawal, bank statements revealing Delilah's hidden accounts. During a brief recess, Cole found himself face-to-face with Ashton in the hallway. This has gotten out of hand, Ashton began, his usual confidence wavering. Maybe we could... If you say one more word to me, Cole interrupted quietly, I'll make those sealed records my personal mission in life. Stay away from my kids. The final blow in the courtroom came from an unexpected source. Delilah's assistant testified about covering for her boss's extended lunches and unauthorized school pickups. When the judge finally called a recess to review the evidence, Cole felt drained but resolute. In the hallway, Delilah approached him one last time. Cole, please, she pleaded. We can work this out. For the kids. For the kids? He turned to face her fully. Everything I'm doing is for the kids. Everything you've done has been for yourself. That's not fair, Delilah snapped. Life's not fair, Cole replied. But it is what we make of it. You made your choices. Now live with them. When the judge's decision came, it was decisive. Cole received temporary full custody pending the final hearings, while Delilah was granted supervised visitation only, with no contact allowed with Ashton. That evening, Cole sat in his home office, staring at the email containing the paternity test results. His finger hovered over the button that would reveal the truth about Milo's biological father. Just as he was about to click, a knock at the door interrupted him. He opened it to find both children standing in their pajamas. Dad? Aria spoke first. Can we sleep in here tonight? Cole looked at their faces, Aria's knowing concern, Milo's innocent trust, and made his decision. He opened the email, and the results confirmed what Delilah had taunted him with. Aria was his biological daughter, but Milo was not. Dad? Milo's voice was small. Are you okay? Cole closed the laptop and opened his arms. Both children rushed into them. I'm better than okay, he said firmly. I have everything I need right here. Later that night, after the kids were asleep in their beds, Marcus called. Got the results? His brother-in-law asked. Yeah, Cole replied. Doesn't change anything. They're my kids, Cole added, his voice steady. Damn right they are. Marcus responded. There was a pause before he continued. Delilah is going to use this against you. Let her try, Cole said, standing at his window, staring out at the quiet street below. DNA doesn't make a father. Being there does. Fighting for them does. Speaking of fighting, Marcus said, Sarah's ready for the next round. Delilah's lawyer is pushing for joint custody. Not happening, Cole said firmly. Agreed, Marcus said. We've got the evidence, the witnesses, everything we need. She wants a war? We'll give her one. After hanging up, Cole walked through his quiet house, checking on each of the sleeping children. He straightened Milo's blanket and brushed hair from Arya's face. These small, simple gestures grounded him and reminded him of what he was fighting for. Let Delilah scheme with her lawyers. Let Ashton play the role of second daddy. He had already won the only battle that truly mattered. The courthouse loomed before Cole like a mountain of steel and stone, its shadow stretching across the morning-lit plaza. He adjusted his tie for the third time. The gesture felt foreign to a man more comfortable in work boots and a hard hat. His sister Janelle had helped him pick out the suit, insisting that appearance mattered in court. Standing before the building where his family's fate would be decided, he was grateful for her insistence. Sarah Chin walked beside him, her heels clicking against the marble floor with military precision. Her leather briefcase bulged with evidence, photos, bank statements, school records, everything carefully organized to demonstrate Delilah's betrayal. Final review, Sarah said, checking her phone. When Judge Martinez questions you, be honest, direct. Show no weakness. Cole's jaw set firmly. I know, and if Delilah tries to provoke you, I won't lose my temper, he said, though his clenched fists told a different story. Marcus appeared at the courthouse steps, slightly out of breath. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was hell. Janelle's got the kids at school. Everything's covered. You didn't have to come, Cole started. Shut up, Marcus interrupted. You're family. We show up for family. Inside courtroom 4B, Delilah was already seated with her attorney, Patricia Warren. Warren was an elegantly dressed woman with sharp features, and her designer suit probably cost more than Cole's monthly mortgage payment. There was no sign of Ashton. Smart move on their part. Delilah caught Cole's eye and attempted a smile, one that might have moved him once, but now it just made his stomach turn. She was dressed conservatively, her usual flashy style toned down to appeal to the court. Even her makeup was subtle, making her appear more like the woman he had married 15 years ago. All rise, the bailiff called, the Honorable Judge Catherine Martinez presiding. Judge Martinez entered, her silver hair and stern expression suggesting someone who had seen every trick in the family court playbook. She reviewed the initial filing silently as both parties waited. Before we begin, she said finally, I want to be clear. This court's primary concern is the well-being of the minor children. I'm not interested in marital grievances or personal vendettas. Are we understood? Both attorneys nodded. What followed was 3 hours of carefully orchestrated character assassination. Patricia Warren painted Cole as a controlling husband and a workaholic who neglected his wife's emotional needs while keeping her financially dependent. Mrs. Easton's relationship with Mr. Blake developed only after years of emotional isolation, Warren argued. My client sought counseling, tried to communicate her needs, but Mr. Easton was always too busy with work, too focused on his construction projects to notice his family falling apart. Cole gripped the edge of the table, forcing himself to stay silent. Furthermore, Warren continued, Mr. Blake represents stability, financial and emotional. He has an established career in finance, connections that could provide opportunities for the children's education and future. His presence in their lives should be seen as an asset, not a liability. When it was Sarah's turn, she was methodical and devastating. Your Honor, Sarah began, rising slowly. I'd like to present evidence of Mrs. Easton's pattern of deception, starting with Exhibit A. She produced school records showing unauthorized pickup attempts, bank statements revealing hidden accounts, and photos of Delilah with Ashton, dating back months before she claimed they met. Mrs. Easton didn't just betray her marriage vows, Sarah continued. She systematically exposed her children to a situation that could have put them at risk. She allowed an unauthorized adult to pick up her 8-year-old son from school without the father's knowledge or consent. Sarah turned to face Delilah directly. Did you perform any background check on Mr. Blake before allowing him access to your children? Objection, Warren interjected, sounding argumentative. I'll rephrase, Sarah said smoothly. Mrs. Easton, please explain the process by which you vetted Mr. Blake's suitability to be around your children. Delilah shifted uncomfortably. I knew him from work. He's respected in the community. So that's a no, Sarah said. She picked up another document. Your Honor, I have here Mr. Blake's financial records, obtained through discovery, 3 bankruptcies in the past decade, 2 tax liens, and most interesting, a sealed juvenile record from Florida. Cole watched Delilah's face pale. This was clearly news to her. Furthermore, Sarah continued, Mrs. Easton's pattern of erratic behavior extends beyond her relationship with Mr. Blake. We have testimony from teachers noting behavioral changes in both children. The school counselor has documented... Objection, Warren stood again. This is hearsay. The counselor is here to testify, Sarah countered, as are both children's teachers and the principal, who witnessed Mrs. Easton's disruptive behavior during an unauthorized attempt to remove her daughter from school. Judge Martinez held up a hand. I've heard enough from the attorneys. Mr. Easton, please approach. Cole stood, feeling all eyes on him. The walk to the witness stand felt longer than any construction site he'd ever crossed. You've been notably quiet through these proceedings, the judge observed. I'd like to hear from you directly. Why should I grant you primary custody? Cole met her gaze steadily. Your Honor, I'm not here to destroy their mother. I'm here because she put our children in an impossible situation. She let a stranger play father to my son, confused him about loyalty and trust, and made my daughter keep secrets no child should have to keep. He paused, gathering his thoughts. I'm not perfect. I work long hours, get my hands dirty. Maybe I don't make as much money as she'd like, but I've never lied to my kids. I've never put them second to my own desires, and I never will. Even knowing that Milo isn't your biological child, the question hung in the air like smoke. Cole didn't hesitate. Milo is my son. I was there when he took his first steps, said his first words, helped him learn to ride a bike, throw a ball. Biology doesn't make a father. Love does. Showing up does. And what about Mrs. Easton's claims that you were emotionally unavailable? The judge asked. I prioritized providing for my family, Cole corrected. Every overtime shift, every weekend project. That was for them. So we could afford dance classes for Aria, baseball camp for Milo, and family vacations. We saved for college. Meanwhile, she was spending our savings on hotels with her boyfriend. Mr. Easton, Warren interrupted. Isn't it true that you've been working 60-hour weeks for the past year? Objection, Sarah called out. Counsel is not conducting cross-examination. I'll allow it, Judge Martinez said. Mr. Easton, please answer. Yes, I worked long hours, Cole admitted. Because we had a major hospital project, and because my wife suddenly needed designer clothes and spa days for her work image. I was trying to keep up with her spending while she was... Cole took a deep breath. While she was using company expenses to fund her affair. Delilah let out a small noise of protest, but Judge Martinez silenced her with a glance. And if I grant you custody, the judge pressed, how will you handle your work commitments? I've already spoken with my company. They've promoted my assistant foreman to share responsibilities. I'll be working regular hours with flexibility for school events, emergencies, and visitation with their mother. I'll follow whatever the court orders. Cole's voice was firm. But I want supervision, at least initially. No contact with the man she chose over her family. Stability. She needs to earn back trust. Theirs. And mine. Judge Martinez studied him for a long moment before nodding. Mrs. Easton, please approach. Delilah walked to the stand, her designer heels wobbling slightly. Up close, Cole could see the strain around her eyes and the slight tremor in her hands. Mrs. Easton, the judge began, help me understand your thinking. You introduced your children to Mr. Blake without their father's knowledge or consent. You allowed him to pick up your son from school. What made you think this was appropriate? Delilah's voice cracked. I thought it would be easier if they got to know him gradually. Ashton was good with kids. He talked about private schools, summer programs. So you prioritized potential future opportunities over their current stability? The judge asked. No, I wanted better for them, Delilah stammered. Cole's a good man, but he's content with mediocrity. Ashton could give them advantages. Advantages like bankruptcy and tax liens? The judge's voice was sharp. Mrs. Easton, this court has seen many cases of parental alienation. Usually, it's more subtle than having a child call someone else Daddy, the judge continued. Delilah flinched. I never told Milo to call him that, Delilah insisted. But you didn't stop it, did you? Judge Martinez's voice was firm. The silence was enough of an answer. We'll take a brief recess while I review the evidence, she announced. Court will resume in 30 minutes. In the hallway, Cole paced while Sarah fielded calls. Delilah stood with her attorney near the water fountain, shooting him occasional glances. Finally, she approached him alone. Cole, please. Her voice was softer than he'd heard it in weeks. Can we talk about this? Find some middle ground. Middle ground? He turned to face her. Like the middle ground between being faithful and destroying our family? Or between being honest and lying to our children? I made mistakes. Delilah's eyes welled with tears. Horrible mistakes, but they need their mother. They needed their mother months ago, Cole said coldly, when you were too busy playing house with Ashton to attend Arya's dance recital. They needed their mother when Milo was sick with the flu, and you were at a work dinner. That's not fair, Delilah said. No, Cole shot back. What's not fair is making our son call another man daddy behind my back. What's not fair is forcing our daughter to keep your secrets. Go back to your lawyer, Delilah. We're done here. When court resumed, Judge Martinez wasted no time. Having reviewed all evidence and testimony, I find Mrs. Easton's judgment concerning the children's welfare to be seriously impaired, the judge said. Her introduction of Mr. Blake into their lives without proper vetting or parental consent shows a disturbing lack of boundaries. Cole could feel rather than see Delilah's sharp intake of breath. Furthermore, the judge continued, her attempts to alienate the children from their father, particularly in the case of Milo, demonstrate a pattern of emotional manipulation that this court cannot ignore. Judge Martinez shuffled her papers before looking directly at Delilah. Mrs. Easton, your desire to provide opportunities for your children is understandable, but stability, trust, and consistent parenting are far more valuable than any private school or summer program. Finally, she turned to Cole. Mr. Easton has demonstrated a commitment to putting his children's needs first, even in the face of personal betrayal. His willingness to maintain a relationship with Milo, despite recent paternity revelations, speaks to his character as a father. The ruling came down like a hammer. I'm granting primary physical custody to Mr. Easton, with supervised visitation for Mrs. Easton every other weekend and one weekday evening. Mrs. Easton will attend parenting classes and counseling. There will be no contact between the children and any romantic partners without prior court approval. The next few weeks brought new challenges. Delilah fought the ruling, filing appeal after appeal, each of which was denied. Meanwhile, Cole focused on rebuilding stability for the kids. He hired Dr. Rachel Foster, a counselor who specialized in children of divorce. Their first family session revealed the depth of the damage they needed to repair. I hate her, Arya declared, her hands clenched in her lap. She ruined everything. Hate is a heavy thing to carry, Dr. Foster said gently. Tell me more about what you're feeling. She lied all the time, and she made me lie too. Arya's tears spilled down her cheeks. When I saw her at the mall with him, she made me promise not to tell. Dad said it would hurt him unnecessarily, but she was the one hurting him. Milo, quieter than usual, picked at a loose thread on his jeans. Is Ashton going to be my new daddy now? No, Cole said softly. Cole firmly pulled both children close. I'm your daddy. Always have been. Always will be. Nothing and no one can change that. The counseling sessions had been helpful, but daily life still posed challenges. Cole adjusted his work schedule, delegating more responsibilities to his team so he could be present for school runs and activities. His crew stepped up without complaint. Family first, boss, Mike said one day when Cole apologized for leaving early. We got this. Cole even began taking cooking lessons at the community center, determined to offer more than just microwave meals and takeout. His first attempts were disastrous: burnt lasagna, undercooked chicken, pasta that could double as rubber bands. But the kids laughed and ordered pizza, and somehow those kitchen failures became moments of healing. One evening, after finally perfecting a decent spaghetti sauce, Cole found Arya in the garage, staring at her mother's old parking spot. "Dad," she said, hovering in the doorway. "Can I ask you something?" "Always, princess," he replied, giving her his full attention. "Mom called today," Arya continued. "She wants me to have lunch with her on Saturday, just us. She says she's changed." Cole set down the wrench he'd been using on Milo's bike. "How do you feel about that?" "I don't know," Arya replied, wrapping her arms around herself. "She says she misses me, that she's sorry, but you're not ready." Arya nodded, tears spilling over. "Does that make me a bad daughter?" "Come here," Cole said, pulling her into a hug despite the motor oil on his hands. "You're not bad for having feelings, for needing time. Your mom hurt us all, and healing doesn't happen on someone else's schedule. She says Ashton's gone." Arya's voice was muffled against his shirt. "That's between her and him," Cole replied, stroking her hair. "Does that change what happened? Are you ever going to forgive her?" Cole was quiet for a moment. "Some things don't deserve forgiveness, princess, but that doesn't mean we stay angry forever. We just learn, grow stronger, and move forward." 2 months after the custody decision, Cole returned home to find Delilah waiting in his driveway. She looked different: designer clothes replaced by simple jeans and a sweater, expensive highlights grown out, and minimal makeup. "What are you doing here?" Cole kept his voice neutral. "Your visitation isn't until tomorrow. I sold the Mercedes," she said without preamble, "and the jewelry. Started therapy. Real therapy, not just the court-mandated sessions." "Good for you," Cole replied. "I'm not asking for forgiveness." She met his gaze directly. "I don't deserve it, but I'm asking for a chance to be a better mother. To rebuild something with our children." Cole studied her for a long moment. "Our children?" "Yes," Delilah's voice cracked. "Milo is yours in every way that matters. I see that now. Too late, but I see it." Cole moved past her to unlock the front door. "It is too late for us anyway, but the kids, that's up to them. You want to rebuild? Start by keeping your promises. Show up when you say you will, put them first, and Ashton is never to come near my family again." His voice was steady. "That's non-negotiable." Delilah nodded and turned to leave. She paused at her car. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry for everything. Save your apologies for the kids," Cole said, watching her drive away. Inside, he found Milo and Arya sitting at the kitchen table, homework spread out before them. Everything felt normal, peaceful. "Right, Dad?" Milo held up a paper. "I got an A on my science project." "That's awesome, buddy," Cole said, dropping his keys and examining the solar system model Milo had built. "Hey, how about pizza to celebrate?" "Can we get stuffed crust?" Arya asked, looking up from her math book. "Anything for my favorite scientists and mathematicians," Cole replied, placing the order. As he did, he caught a glimpse of their reflection in the window. The three of them together, not perfect, but stronger for what they'd survived. Each challenge had only deepened their bond, proving what Cole had known all along. Real family isn't about blood or biology, or fancy cars in the driveway. The next morning brought another test. Milo's school was hosting a father-son baseball game. As Cole helped his son gear up, Milo grew unusually quiet. "What's on your mind, buddy?" Cole asked, adjusting Milo's cap. Tommy said. Milo hesitated, scuffing his cleats against the floor. "He said you're not my real dad, that Mom told his mom the truth." Cole's hand stilled. He knelt down to Milo's level, looking him in the eye. "You want to know what makes a real dad?" Milo nodded, his lower lip trembling. "A real dad is someone who teaches you to ride a bike, even after you fall 20 times. Who checks under your bed for monsters and knows exactly how to make your chocolate milk. Who loves you no matter what." Cole gently squeezed Milo's shoulders. "That's what makes a real dad. Not blood, not DNA, not what other people say." "But Ashton said," Milo began. Ashton was wrong about a lot of things, Cole said, keeping his voice steady. He was wrong about our family, wrong about what matters. You're my son, Milo. Nothing changes that. At the baseball field, other fathers cast curious glances their way. News of the custody battle had spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. But when Milo hit his first ever home run, Cole's proud shout drowned out all the whispers. That evening, as Cole cooked dinner, he'd finally mastered more than spaghetti. Arya brought up something that had clearly been weighing on her. Dad, I saw Mom at the store today. Cole turned from the stove. Yeah? How'd that go? She looks different. Arya picked at her napkin. She asked if I'd have coffee with her sometime. Just us. What did you say? I said I'd think about it. Arya looked up. Would you be mad if I said yes? Cole moved to sit beside her. Listen to me. Your relationship with your mom is yours to figure out. I won't stand in the way of that. Just remember, you set the pace. You decide. And if you're ready, she's really trying. I think, Arya's voice softened. The counselor says people can change if they want to badly enough. Maybe they can. Cole kept his voice neutral. But that doesn't mean we forget. We just learn to move forward. The doorbell rang, interrupting their conversation. Cole opened it to find Janelle, her arms full of grocery bags. Before you say anything, his sister announced, pushing past him. I know you can cook now, but I made your favorite pot roast anyway. Behind her, Marcus carried more bags. And I brought beer. Non-negotiable family dinner time. Cole felt something in his chest loosen. This was family, messy, unexpected, but showing up when needed. Over dinner, Milo regaled everyone with his baseball triumph, while Arya rolled her eyes fondly. Janelle and Marcus exchanged knowing looks, seeing the healing happening bit by bit. Later, after the kids were in bed, Marcus helped Cole clean up. Heard Delilah's seeing someone new, Marcus said casually. Not my concern anymore, Cole muttered, loading the dishwasher with more force than necessary. How's it not going well? Marcus sighed. You ever think about dating again? No, Cole answered immediately. The kids need stability right now, not complications. You're allowed to have a life too, you know. I have a life? Cole gestured around the kitchen. I have my kids, my work, this home we're rebuilding. That's enough. Weeks turned into months. The custody schedule became routine. Delilah stayed true to her word, showing up consistently for her supervised visits and attending every counseling session. She didn't mention Ashton again. 1 year after the custody ruling, Cole sat in his office, reviewing photo albums. The man in those old pictures, the trusting, naive one, willing to look past red flags, was gone. In his place stood someone stronger, wiser, but no less capable of love. His phone buzzed with a text from Delilah. Kids asleep. Need to talk. Cole found her waiting on the front porch, clutching a manila envelope. Make it quick, he said. It's late. I'm moving, she announced. Got a job offer in Chicago. Better position. Fresh start. Something cold settled in Cole's stomach. The custody agreement? I'm not fighting it. Delilah held out the envelope. These are papers giving you full custody. I'll take whatever visitation I can get during holidays and summer. But they need stability. They have that with you. Cole studied her face. Why? Because you were right, her voice cracked. About everything. I destroyed something precious because I wanted more. Shinier, newer. She wiped her eyes. But you built something real. Strong. They deserve that. Yes, they do, Cole said softly. Always. I love them, Cole, she said. But love isn't enough without actions to back it up. You taught me that. After she left, Cole sat at the kitchen table, reading through the papers. Legal jargon aside, they represented something profound, an acknowledgement that sometimes the strongest thing a parent can do is step back. A floorboard creaked behind him. He turned to find Arya in her pajamas. Was that Mom? She asked. Yeah, Princess, Cole replied. She got a job in Chicago. He watched his daughter process this. But that doesn't mean she's abandoning you. It just means things will be different. Arya was quiet for a long moment. You know what's weird, Dad? I'm not even that sad. Is that terrible? No, sweetheart, Cole said, kissing her forehead. It means you're healing. They sat together in comfortable silence until Arya yawned. Get some sleep, Cole said. We've got that daddy-daughter breakfast thing tomorrow. I love you, Dad. I love you too, Princess. Alone again, Cole looked around his kitchen. Their kitchen. The artwork on the fridge, homework spread across the table, dishes in the sink. Not perfect, but real. Solid. Built to last. Delilah had tried to break them. Instead, she'd only proven what Cole had known all along. True strength isn't about never getting knocked down. It's about getting back up, protecting what matters, and building something stronger from the ruins. Let her go find her fresh start in Chicago. He had already won the only battle that mattered.